To me is the principal for your Washington High School, Paul Salvino.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Ray. Thanks for having me today.
Well, no problem. In the interest of journalistic integrity, I have to tell everybody, I've known Paul for over half his life.
Absolutely.
When my daughter was in high school, she brought home this behemoth of a fellow to me. Back then you were playing football and wrestling for Massillon. You weighed sizably more than you weigh now.
Yeah.
So Paul was a standout here, both football and wrestling. Went to the States in wrestling and made some of those all-star games in football. You graduated in 96?
97.
97.
Class of 97.
So that's been some time ago. Paul went on to play football at University of Akron, where he did some great things until you broke your neck, or whatever it was that happened.
Yeah, it's probably the best way to say, yeah, kind of a neck break.
And so no more playing football.
Correct.
But Akron came through, and you kept your scholarship, but you had to kind of volunteer in the community, so you got the unenviable job of going over and coaching LeBron James in football.
Yeah, actually, and I did. And the way it was set up, I played for former Tiger head coach Lee Owens, who was the head coach at the University of Akron. And when I did have that injury that unfortunately ended my career, he gave me an option. Knew I was undergrad for education, wanted to teach and coach. So I actually started out as kind of a student assistant coach for spring ball for a season, and then was contacted by one of the coaches that had recruited me at the time, who was at that time at St. Vincent St. Mary High School, and said, "Hey, I talked to Coach Owens, and we'd like to maybe bring you on board at Akron St. Vincent St. Mary." And gave me an opportunity to run some tutor programs, as well as obviously coached football, helped with wrestling, ran the weight room, and it was a great opportunity for a young guy.
And you coached, the head coach at that time was Jay Brophy, who made his mark with Miami University and Miami Dolphins. And that staff they had there.
Oh, it was amazing.
Like
it was
all these
amazing.
Former pro football
Frank
players.
Stams, former Ram, former Brown, Notre Dame All-American. Mark Murphy is in the Green Bay Packer Hall of Fame. Jay Brophy was in the Killer Bees for the Miami Dolphins. So needless to say, I learned a lot about the game with that crew.
Yeah, and after high school, after college, you immediately moved into Massillon.
Absolutely.
In fact, he and my daughter gifted us with 4 grandchildren, and your first house was on Ohio.
Yep.
Right here in Massillon.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not going to tell anybody where it was, but we put in a killer bathroom in that house.
Oh, yeah.
It was Tiger City.
It was probably the most custom bathroom at the time in the city of Massillon. Orange and black.
Orange and black.
It was fantastic.
It's on Ohio, so wherever houses go up for sale in Ohio, go look at the basement.
Look at the basement for the bathroom.
So you taught at Longfellow initially.
I did. I was very, very honored to serve as a 7th grade teacher at Longfellow Middle School. Was a poet. I had the best teaching schedule ever. I was certified science and social studies, so half my day was science and half my day was social studies, and I did that for several years. As well as had an opportunity to coach varsity football here at Washington High School, assisted with wrestling and girls track, pretty much anything I can coach,
yeah.
I coached.
Well, I have to tell you the whole story when Mr. Salvino here was teaching the class about Vikings. He shows up at work with a fur vest on, the big horn helmet.
Absolutely.
And a cup of mead.
I am proud to say, as a young teacher, to say I was all in probably doesn't quite do it justice. I just truly loved the opportunity to teach kids, and what better way to bring the lessons live than dressing up as a character throughout the unit. When I taught science, I tried to get as innovative as I could with the resources we had with various labs. I tried to do at least 3 science labs a week. For my kids, and probably the neatest part of that, Ray, is whether it's whether I'm at Mark's at the grocery store or pumping gas, or I'm at a Massillon event, somebody that I had in class will come up to me and say, "Man, Mr. Salvino, I remember when you were a Viking. I remember the project we did. I remember when we all had to dress up and put on a weather forecast with the fronts and the pressure systems, and those definitely make me proud."
That's good to hear. Good to hear. Now, at some point, you're coaching at Massillon, probably one of your dream jobs of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And you're teaching, and there's a fork in the road ahead. And the fork in the road is, do I stay in coaching and eventually get a head coaching job, no question about it. He pretty much gets what he wants.
How about that?
Or go into administration.
Yes.
And this clown, and I'll say it that way, here's an opening at Claymont High School down in Yorksville.
Yep, Tuscarawas County.
Down in T County. He does not have his principal certificate.
Nope.
Goes down and gets the job anyway. Like I said, pretty much gets what he wants. So you made the decision then you're going to pursue administration.
Yes, I had an opportunity at a very young age to work for some just outstanding leaders that, seemed like my ink wasn't even dry on my first teaching contract, and I had kind of management telling me, hey, Paul, you're not going to get any younger. You should just start nipping away at your administrative degree. We see some leadership qualities. All the while that, I was awarded opportunities to go to various conferences and then come back to our middle school as a very young teacher and present on some of the things I've learned. And I really started to fall in love with that leadership side of it with, I love impacting 25 kids each mod in the classroom, but an opportunity to impact 25 teachers that have 25 kids in a mod became a pretty big focus for me. So yeah, I took a chance as a young guy, uncertified. I had a lot of the coursework done. And fortunately, Claymont City Schools saw some things in me that they liked and made an agreement that we're going to give you a 2-year contract as long as you complete your licensure. And I did that within a year. I spent 3 great years as an assistant principal down at that high school. And then I proudly served as a high school principal for 2 years in Claymont City Schools and really learned a lot at a very young age. You learned, what to do and kind of plant that seed and what not to do and really plant that seed for future decisions. So it was a great opportunity for me.
That's a great building.
Oh, it was.
Real
Fantastic.
Nice
Fantastic.
And Claymont's your kind of territory. You like to hunt. You're an outdoors kind of guy. And
Absolutely.
That's what they were about down there. That was a nice
Yeah,
match.
a lot of pride in that community.
Yeah.
A lot of pride for, didn't have, not a, socioeconomic status, struggled a little bit, but a lot of prideful people, and I really embraced that and ended up actually got an agreement with the family, and we ended up moving down there, and because I'm a big believer in, you got to put your roots down where you're working and spending so much time during the day, and that's why we had made that decision to move down there, and really took to the community well.
Yeah, it was terrific. I mean, they're a big wrestling school, you're a big wrestling guy, that'd be nice. But then, you say, I got to get back to Stark County, because your dream job was on the horizon. And we all know what your dream job is, and you're sitting in it right now.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't ready.
Right.
So you had an opportunity to hook up with an old friend, Mr. DiLoretto, up at Jackson, and you become the principal of the middle school. You were there for how long?
I served as the principal of JMMS for 7 years.
Wow.
7 years. It was a great opportunity for me, to get back to Stark County. It was important for, to have, the kids around grandparents, 10 minutes away instead of an hour. And then obviously, the opportunities at Jackson Local, the information I obtained over the years and the just fantastic leadership that I served under was just extraordinary. And I'm so thankful for that time because I learned so very much in 7 years.
So there you are, Jackson. Nice, super job. Super system, super support.
Absolutely.
Financially sound. And then your dream job opens up. And you think, boy, am I crazy to leave this Jackson job? Especially with my kids in the school system? And jump over here? No hesitation, was there?
No, there wasn't. Last spring is probably one of the more humbling experiences in my life because Mr. Goodright, our superintendent here in Massillon City Schools, gave me a call and said, basically, I know he's mentioned this in various news outlets upon my hiring last spring, but basically said, Paul, you're in a very, very, very short list of someone I'd like to talk to about serving as our next high school principal. Would you be interested to talk? And so I said, yeah, I definitely would be interested to talk. And I had a very forthright conversation, with the leadership, in Jackson Local to let them know. And, just nothing but support from them. And I had a just great long conversation with Mr. Goodright. And before I knew it, It was a very fast process. I was awarded the opportunity to serve as our high school principal and was board approved last spring.
The thing about all that is, there've been some good principals here, no doubt about it. But I don't think you can be a great principal here unless you're from this culture. I really believe that. This is one of those schools where you have to be in the culture.
You know, when I'm not going to lie to you. You know, we've been here all school year, and you know, we have a lot of things going very, very well, and still things that, you know, we need to get better at. We need to keep working. But when I probably just a couple days after I was hired, I got a phone call from someone whom I've considered to be one of the best leaders that I've ever been around, and that's Mr. Bob Rohr. And I still call him that, and he yells at me and says, "Call me Bob," and I can't do it. Just like former coaches, I played for Coach Jack Rose, and he says, "Sal, you got to call me Jack." I can't do it. But he says, "You know, Paul," he says, if memory serves me correct, he says, "You and I are the only guys that have served as principal at Washington High School that actually were alumnus."
No kidding.
Of Massillon, Washington.
Yeah.
So pretty exciting. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do the job if you're not, but I can. I've had a lot of conversations with community members, kids, parents, you know, various stakeholders, teachers, and they say, "Man, you could just tell. I mean, you love this place," and I really do from the bottom of my heart.
You can tell people about it, but you can't explain how you get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Absolutely.
I think that's huge here. I'm going to switch topics here. Big change in topic. Several weeks now, maybe several months ago, there was an unfortunate incident at your former school.
Yes.
Jackson Memorial Middle School. Now, that was your former building. You knew practically every staff member there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 2/3 of the kids were kids that were, you know, under you and you were there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a neighboring district. So, and you're good friends with the superintendent up there. I think you're still good friends.
Yeah.
So you get the news that there's something going on at the middle school. Now you're going up there. You're the former administrator up there, head administrator. So you got all these people you know involved. You're a neighboring district, and you know it's like you say, Stark County is one big community. We all try to work together. But on top of that, your two oldest sons are students there.
Yeah.
Tell me about that day.
So I was actually in this office, just left a meeting and preparing for another meeting, actually with our superintendent here, Mr. Goodright, and I got a phone call from Deputy Meyer, who is our chief of security here in Massillon City Schools. He actually got an alert from law enforcement that there was a situation at JMMS, and he knew of my situation with having, as of now, the two boys over there. So he called me immediately. You know, I called my superintendent, and he said, "What are you doing there? Head over there and see what's going on," and just very supportive in it. So, you know, I showed up, kind of navigating through all the traffic and all the parents, and was, you know, number one, really, really impressed at the amount of organization, but not shocked by the organization of Jackson locals through that ordeal. You know, the conjunction with the law enforcement was on point, but then the parents, who were obviously frightened. You know, there wasn't a lot of information in the beginning, and I understand why, because there wasn't a lot of, you know, it was ongoing and it wasn't a lot to be released, but, you know, the calmness of parents in that parking lot that day was really magnificent. Just being patient. I thought, you know, anytime I go through an experience, I try to learn, you know, how things are handled, how it's organized, the good, the bad. And I just, as a parent of a student in that building, as a friend of so many over there, I was just really, you know, it just makes you feel good when you know your own kids are being taken care of. And, you know, I couldn't have asked for that situation to have gone any better than it did, from top down in that district. And, you know, you know, I'm a history major, so, you know, you always try to learn from the past and try to do some things to grow. So I know they're doing that as an organization, and I assure you that we are doing that as an organization as well.
We're going to talk about that in a second here. I just want to go on record. We had some parents, you know, after the fact, complain how long they had to wait and this and that. I think Jackson did a magnificent job. you've got to do due diligence. You've got to check to make sure everybody's safe. I would rather wait 4 extra hours for my kid than something even more, to go wrong. So now I know here you're bringing some of that stuff over here. Are there any things going on as far as the security of your kids that's really worth talking about?
Absolutely. I had an opportunity to spend most of the summer here learning. I completed I called a need. I interviewed teachers that I had not yet really gotten to know. A couple people that were leaving their positions to go elsewhere. A couple student athletes that were in the halls. I introduced myself and said, hey, can I ask you a few questions? And then obviously had numerous meetings with our administrative team. But I knew that was an area that I wanted to put a good amount of focus in as we started off the school year. So I acquired about getting what we call our Raptor system. And it's actually the same system used at Jackson Local. But when you come in as a visitor, you are to pass off your photo ID, typically a driver's license, and then that'll register a sticker, visitor's badge, with just the pertinent information, not your personal information. But then some things would pop up on the computer if you're someone that should not be in our schools. So we instituted that. Proud to say we were the first building in the district to do that from day one. And now that has gone throughout the district. I believe at this point all of our buildings have that system in it. So we're just trying to, keep an eye on, we got to know who's in our building at all times of the day and who's not. But some other things that we've added, we do exterior door audits, Ray. So we have a full-time SRO, Officer Dennis Smith, that's on the Madison Police Department. He's been with us from the first day of school. I hit the jackpot with him as an SRO. He does a great job, loves our kids, he's all in, and that's really important to me. When I talk to Superintendent Goodright all the time, he says you could tell a lot by someone if they're really all in, and Dennis is an all-in guy. And so I set it up with Dennis as well as at least one member of our leadership team here, and then even some paraprofessionals in the building, depending upon where they're at in the building. But we have a checklist, so throughout the day, at least 3 different times a school day, we check exterior doors to make sure, yes, we can say we're locked down, but if you don't inspect it, you can't expect it. So sometimes air pressure in a building fluctuates, so that door doesn't latch completely shut when a teacher maybe comes in from lunch. So we do 3 different audits throughout the day to make sure that those exterior doors are latched shut. So we have 41 exterior doors here at WHS. So, but we make sure, and then when those are not latched, that'll be reported if it's an air pressure change, which happens frequently in a building this size. We'll make, we call our maintenance team and they tweak it and we're good to go. So we have that going on. I know the big talk of media lately is when, I guess we were one of the first buildings to put in a metal detector, as you guys saw as we came through. Mr. Goodright, made a public announcement at one of our last board meetings and said, hey, we're purchasing it. It'll be in place. At this time, we're not officially manning it yet. But we do have it in place as needed. So we're kind of waiting on that side of it. There's some other things that we've got going in regards to tweaking some of our procedures, policies and procedures with an emergency situation such as the one that occurred where you have a serious imminent threat in the building. Certain things will be released, certain things will not. We're big believers. We don't want to put necessarily our whole game plan out there.
You can't.
That's one we got to kind of keep close to.
Can't give your playbook to the other team, right?
But we had a great safety and security informational parent meeting a few weeks back. Actually, the Monday after the situation at JMMS, our superintendent called me. Rick said, Paul, we're going to put this together, and I'd like you to come on stage and kind of address some of the things with us. And great turnout. It was absolutely fantastic. About 250 parents.
Wow, good.
It was kind of a whole setup. So we, Superintendent Goodright addressed the crowd, and then we broke into tables, about 16 groups, and then we took feedback. We took feedback from parents, and then we presented out to the group as a whole. And then, as promised, on our district website are all the suggestions that were made. So, some things we already have enacted, and other things, it's an ongoing process. Speaking of Stark County, through our Educational Service Center and great leadership there. There's a new committee being formed with superintendents and direct safety personnel for their districts to work in collaboration with one another, because we truly are all in this together.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. Well, those are a lot of good measures, no doubt about it. Now back to something fun.
Okay.
Because you being a football guy and you being an administrator, I don't think there's any place to be an administrator at that's any better than right here.
No,
if you love football, if you love high school football.
I can honestly say I don't know if there's any better place to be, period. I know I'm biased. I'm from here, and I'm proud to have graduated from this great district and this great high school. But yeah, that's a great combination in one place.
That is a great combination. And you got all three of your boys play football.
Yes.
One will probably be playing here next year.
Yeah, he'll be a freshman at Washington High School.
So this season coming up, anything big? Any big games?
They're all big games.
No, I mean, like any state powers coming in.
We do. I'll tell you, we have an exciting. Our head athletic director is also our head football coach, Coach Nate Moore. Just finalized our football schedule. We have a couple really big games. They're all big games, but East St. Louis is coming to town, and there's a documentary of them out called 89 Blocks. If any of our people watching this show want to Google 89, the number 89 Blocks, it kind of gives a nice documentary of this high school football team from East St. Louis.
Wow.
That'll be a dynamo game for sure.
I'll be here for that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We start the season off with St. Vincent St. Mary at home again, and I know they just hired a new coach, and they're always hungry to come to Tiger Town, and then we just we continue. I'm just so proud that we continue our game with Glen Oak High School.
Yeah.
I think that's a great county game. Players play hard and fans cheer hard, and it's high school football at its finest.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that.
Some good games.
We do. We have some great games, and we're that team a few miles to the east will be here week 10.
Those guys. Wait a minute. So you got 8 home games.
We have 8 home games. Yes. We travel to a new game for us. We travel to Louisville High School this football season, this fall. Really excited about that because we've really done some great things as 2 school districts working on a student exchange that I'm sure a lot of you have heard about earlier in the year, where we had students from Louisville High School coming to WHS. We had some WHS students going to Louisville High School. I had a chance to go there with our kids and talk to their teachers, and they have a great administrative team over there. So we're hoping maybe at halftime to introduce, to bring the kids back together at halftime of that game in the fall, and that'll be a nice battle for us. And obviously we travel to Canton, Glen Oak next year.
Oh,
so
that's
those are
those
are our 2 road games.
Wow. Former Louisville was Federal League, then they were NBC, and then they were whatever, and then they got kicked out. And the league abandoned them.
They're kind of independent.
Yeah,
they're like us.
Like you guys.
Yep.
That's a perfect match. Well, I think we've covered enough subject matter for the day. I'm glad you got your dream job, buddy.
Absolutely.
You're perfect for it. And I look forward to some football games this year and in the next 5 or 6 years as I watch my grandsons play.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to thank you for coming to our high school today in my office, making it convenient for me to be interviewed here in my office. Really appreciate what you guys do. I'm just humbled to get the word out of the great things going on at WHS and the Massillon City Schools. And I really appreciate your support.
No problem.
Go Tigers.